Hello and good morning from the Freedom of Information and Privacy Association. I'm Patrick Farnsworth, and this is your Access and Privacy Online News Summary for Saturday, March 14th. It's another busy week across Canada's privacy and transparency landscape. We're tracking a major privacy investigation into Loblaw's PC Optimum program, new conditions allowing TikTok to keep operating in Canada, and growing concerns about facial recognition and workplace AI surveillance. And on the transparency front, Canada's Information Commissioner is warning that federal access to information reform proposals lack ambition, while Freedom of Information reporting reveals gaps in everything from hospital overdose data to environmental spill reporting. And in late-breaking news this week, as British Columbia continues debate over Bill 9, the government's proposed changes to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, Ontario introduces changes designed to let the Premier act without public scrutiny. And on the federal front, as one chapter is closed, another opens as Bill C-4 has passed into law. Let's dive in. We begin with the shenanigans at the end of the week in the House of Commons. Parliament rejected the proposed amendments from the Senate that introduced a sunset clause into Bill C-4 Part 4. The Senate quietly acquiesced to the demand, and the bill has received royal assent. The federal Liberals, Conservatives, and NDP are counting it as a win to strip away the rights of citizens in British Columbia and Quebec, giving themselves more power than Canada's spy agency in the collection, use, and retention of personal information with less oversight. Only independent senators and Green Party MP Elizabeth May spoke in the chambers on the topic. Now it is left to the courts and citizens to remind MPs that we expect them to respect our privacy. We've included links in the show notes so you can send them a message. Late this week, Ontario jumped headfirst into the race to the bottom of Canada's FOI and privacy legislative reviews. Proposed changes mirror the actions we've seen from the BC NDP, along with Alberta and Nova Scotia Conservatives as they take steps to make it harder to get information from public bodies, shield more information from public disclosure, and give public bodies more power to disregard requests, all while taking powers away from independent oversight. There appears to be a unique ineptitude of government leaders with autocratic tendencies to recognize that increasing secrecy is not merely correlating but a cause for decreasing trust in public bodies. We'll be bringing you more on this in the weeks ahead as legislative debates continue. A quick update from the broader privacy community. The People's Consultation on AI is continuing to gather public input on how artificial intelligence should be governed in Canada. Organizers say the project is designed to help citizen-driven recommendations on issues such as transparency, accountability, and the protection of personal data in AI systems. The consultation deadline has been extended to March 23rd to allow more Canadians to participate. You can learn more at peoplesaiconsultation.ca. That is peoplesaiconsultation.ca. And follow the links in our show notes. Turning now to privacy developments across Canada. An investigation by the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada has found that Loblaw took too long to process requests from customers trying to delete their PC Optimum accounts. The investigation concluded the company had mechanisms in place but failed to respond within a reasonable timeframe. The office first opened the investigation in 2024 when some Loblaw customers said they had been unable to delete their PC Optimum accounts. It also found that purchase histories were retained after accounts were deleted, raising concerns that individuals could potentially still be identified. Loblaw has said it has since taken steps to make sure privacy-related requests are responded to on time going forward. Loblaw says it has accepted the Commissioner's recommendations and will conduct a third-party review of its anonymization practices. Meanwhile, in Quebec, a court case is testing the balance between privacy rights and parental authority. A Montreal teacher is challenging a provincial policy allowing students aged 14 and older to change their name or pronouns at school without informing their parents. The teacher argues that being required to present different identities to students and parents violated her freedom of conscience and expression. She said she was asked to use masculine pronouns for the student during class and feminine ones, with the student's parents at risk of losing her job in 2023. The teacher has also said the provincial policy left her feeling uncomfortable speaking to the parents about their child. The case also raises questions about anonymity in court proceedings, as lawyers debate whether some witnesses should be allowed to testify without revealing their identities. A ruling on that issue is expected soon. Also in Quebec, testimony continues in a civil trial involving Cardinal Marc Ouellette. Two women told the court about alleged incidents of inappropriate behavior decades ago, including one who said she felt like a prisoner during a 1992 encounter. The testimony is part of a defamation lawsuit filed by Ouellette against Pamela Guolot, who named him in a class action case involving alleged misconduct in the Quebec City Archdiocese. Guolot previously told the court that Ouellette touched her without her consent on 3 occasions, including one time when he allegedly ran his hand down her back to the top of her buttocks in 2010. A witness testified that Ouellette came up behind her when she was preparing items for a mass in Montreal, put his hands on either side of her, and allegedly rubbed his pelvis against her behind. The allegations have not been proven in court, and Ouellette denies any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, the federal government has reversed course on TikTok. After completing a national security review, Canada will now allow the platform to continue operating under strict conditions after a 2024 order for TikTok to close its offices in Canada due to national security concerns. Industry Minister Melanie Joly says the decision includes stronger protections for Canadians' personal information, new safeguards for minors consistent with the findings, and recommendations from the Federal Privacy Commissioner and 3 provincial privacy watchdogs, and oversight by an independent third-party monitor. However, Canada's spy agency, CSIS, has declined to release the advice it gave the government before the decision and didn't comment on what needs to be in place to ensure Canada's national security. The agency is instead urging Canadians to remain cautious about what personal information they share online. Restrictions on TikTok on federal government devices remains in place. 2 additional research reports this week highlight emerging privacy challenges tied to new technologies. One warns that facial recognition systems are expanding rapidly, yet Canada still lacks clear legal protections governing biometric data. The article provides solid examples of potential issues with Ring doorbell cameras, Meta smart glasses, and even police use of facial recognition technology. Another explores the growing use of AI-enabled sensors, drones, and wearable technology in workplaces. This one comments on some of the benefits of AI technology in the workplace, especially regarding health, but cautions the need for robust governance frameworks to help protect workers' privacy, rights, safety, and well-being. While these tools could improve safety in high-risk industries, researchers say they also raise important questions about worker surveillance, data ownership, and psychological stress. Turning now to access to information developments. Canada's Information Commissioner Carolyn Maynard said she is disappointed with the federal government's latest proposals to reform the Access to Information Act. In a statement this week, Maynard said the proposals failed to address the system's most pressing issue: chronic delays in responding to requests. Many users complain of lengthy delays and exemptions in the law that keep many federal records under wraps. Maynard said long overdue reforms, such as maximum timelines for agencies to conduct consultations on whether to release requested records, are simply absent from the Federal Treasury Board's proposals. She also criticized the absence of proposals to expand the law's coverage, limits to broad exemptions, or allow oversight of cabinet confidences. Maynard says meaningful reform is urgently needed to restore Canadians' confidence in the federal access system. Meanwhile, in Alberta, LGI reporter Amanda Jeffrey at the Drayton Valley and District Free Press reports that questions remain after the town council placed its chief administrative officer on paid leave. A special council meeting was called with little notice before quickly moving into closed session. The notice to the public of the special meeting was released on social media about an hour before the meeting started. The Free Press has seen the waiver, signed by all members of council, required by the Municipal Government Act, to waive the 24-hour notice required for special meetings. In a twist that shows this council is neither considering the public interest nor enabled to release information deemed in the public interest, officials are blaming the legislation for their secrecy, saying they cannot discuss the details because of access to information restrictions. The end result is residents remain uncertain about what prompted the decision. We're sure the rumors and misinformation the council contends with as this unfolds are in no small factor caused by the vacuum and absence of legitimate information their secrecy creates. In British Columbia, reporting by Michelle Gamage at the Tyee highlights the challenges of tracking non-fatal overdoses occurring inside hospitals. After filing multiple Freedom of Information requests, journalists found that several health authorities either do not collect the data or say releasing it could risk identifying patients. Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry says there is currently no standardized system for tracking overdose incidents within hospitals. Henry has been closely watching the unregulated toxic overdose crisis for years and has, in the past, called on the province to expand its safer supply program. When asked about the Tyee being denied amalgamated data on non-fatal overdose numbers in hospitals for a year because the information could be identifying, Henry cited the mosaic effect as the reason. The lack of data raises questions about how health authorities determine whether overdose prevention services are needed in medical facilities. Here at FIPA, we will again raise the specter that triggering and justifying the exceptional powers under the label of an emergency that has been in effect for close to a decade requires more than take our word for it. It requires exceptional evidence. Meanwhile, in Newfoundland and Labrador, the provincial government is introducing new rules governing the use of artificial intelligence in government contracts. The new criteria also appear to position Newfoundland and Labrador as one of the leading provinces when it comes to setting guardrails on the use of artificial intelligence by contractors, according to a scan of other jurisdictions by the Canadian press. The move follows reports containing false citations believed to be generated by AI, including one linked to consulting firm Deloitte. In an email, Deloitte told the Canadian press it stands behind the recommendations in the Health Human Resources report and said it was not written with AI. The company used AI, quote, to support a small number of research citations, end quote, and revised the document with a small number of citation corrections, the unattributed email said. Under the new policy, vendors must disclose whether they plan to use artificial intelligence, and the government will have the power to audit that use. Officials say the goal is to close gaps in accountability as AI tools become more widely used. Transparency concerns are also emerging in environmental reporting. In New Brunswick, politicians and environmental groups are calling for answers after it took nearly 2 days for the public to be warned about a chemical spill along the Trans-Canada Highway. The spill released about 900 liters of a toxic compound known as hexavalent chromium. The extent of the spill was not revealed until more than 2 months later, following a CBC Freedom of Information request to the Environment Department. Officials say they informed the public as soon as preliminary lab results confirming the presence of the chemical came in, at which point roads were closed and cleanup began. Critics say residents should have been notified immediately, even before lab confirmation of the substance involved. Finally, new research based on access to information requests has shed light on animal welfare practices in Canadian slaughterhouses. Researchers identified nearly 800 documented cases of inhumane handling between 2017 and 2022. Reports show that the most common violations involve sedated animals waking up while being put down, mishandling injured animals, and incidents such as animals being dead at the time of unloading. Experts warn the real number could be higher since regulatory systems increasingly rely on internal industry reporting. Shifting now to developments in the United States and across the Americas. Newly released video footage is raising questions about the fatal shooting of a 23-year-old U.S. citizen by a federal immigration agent in Texas. The video obtained through a public records request appears to contradict initial claims that the driver intentionally rammed an officer before the shooting. The officer said he fired to protect his fellow agents, police officers, and the public from what he feared was a potential terrorist attack intended to cause mass casualties. Another video shows a passenger who was riding in the car with the 23-year-old telling investigators that his friend had not intended to harm federal officers but had panicked because he feared getting arrested for driving while intoxicated. The passenger died the Saturday after he gave a statement that disputed the government's version of events. The case is one of several fatal incidents linked to the expanded immigration enforcement during President Donald Trump's second term. Meanwhile, a regional watchdog says press freedom across the Americas deteriorated sharply in 2025. The Inter-American Press Association reported 170 attacks against journalists in the United States last year. This caused the United States to be labeled as a nation with restrictions on freedom of speech by the IAPA. The researchers found that in the United States, there was poor government action against disinformation, as well as government actions aimed at limiting free expression and access to information. Researchers say government rhetoric targeting the media, along with legal pressure against journalists, is contributing to a worsening climate for press freedom. In Washington, a Justice Department official is also facing ethics charges after sending a letter threatening to block hiring of Georgetown law graduates unless the university eliminated diversity and inclusion programs. The letter warned the dean that the Justice Department official's office wouldn't consider any Georgetown law students for jobs, summer internships, or fellowships until his letter of inquiry was resolved. Legal authorities say the letter may have violated constitutional protections for free speech and academic independence. International criticism of U.S. policy is also growing. A United Nations panel on racial discrimination says racist rhetoric from political leaders and aggressive immigration enforcement have contributed to serious human rights concerns. The panel is urging the United States to review enforcement practices and limit immigration operations near schools, hospitals, and places of worship. The decision, made under the committee's early warning protocol, is not legally binding, but seeks to hold a country, in this case the United States, to its own international commitments. The UN said to review whether its immigration policies abide by international human rights law. The U.S. should repeal discriminatory measures related to asylum procedures and put up safeguards so immigration agencies cannot access personal data in government databases. And finally, the watchdog overseeing the U.S. Social Security Administration has launched an investigation into a whistleblower complaint that a former government contractor improperly accessed sensitive databases. The records reportedly include 2 tightly restricted databases of U.S. citizens' information and had at least one dataset on a thumb drive that he said he would share with his new employer. If confirmed, experts say the incident could represent one of the largest potential data misuse cases involving federal records. A Senate Finance Committee ranking member has additionally called for full public accounting. As always, we hope today's stories helped you stay informed about the forces shaping privacy, transparency, and accountability. To support this work, please subscribe to FIPA News Monitoring or consider making a donation. Our writer is Sean Fisk. Music is by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. I'm Patrick Farnsworth. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and stay informed.